Hello and welcome to the Artist Toolbox. I'm your host, Shannon McKinnon. Have you ever dreamed about being a restorative artist or maybe an aerialist and gracefully hanging from the ceiling? Well, I caught up with artist Lori Lemaire at her studio to chat. Lori, you've had an extensive career as a visual artist, as an aerialist, as a restoration artist. For those who don't know, what is a restoration artist?
Well, I restore paintings or surfaces that have been painted. So I started off as a decorative painter, faux finisher. I go into people's homes and transform their rooms using paint. And I also had different classes that I did overseas. So I took people to France and to Italy. We would redo a room in a castle and they would get to learn all these different techniques. And I had a school for a long time in Toronto where I taught it. So when I came to Hamilton, I approached Dundurn Castle and talked to them about some work that I heard that they needed done. So they discovered that in the hallway of Dundurn Castle, it had been painted to look like marble in the 1850s. And then it had been painted over and they wallpapered and throughout the years since then. But they did this reveal and they saw that it was painted to look like sienna marble. And so I got the contract to go in and restore the whole hallway to bring it back to the way it looked in 1850. I would look at the original and then I would take pictures and do some research and figure out the layers. I also researched the type of mediums that they would use. So they used beer back then and dried pigment, as well as oil glazes. So I used beer when I restored it because the city really wanted me to stay true to the way that they would have done it back in 1850. And I think the only thing that I didn't do that would be authentic was that I was doing it and I'm a woman. And back then it would have been a man. My assistant was a man on the job. That's right, yeah.
Lori, you started the Hamilton Aerial Group. Tell me, how did you start it?
Yeah, well, I started it in Hamilton, but before that I was an aerialist in Toronto for a few years. I met this woman who was an aerialist and a painter, and she invited me to come and try it, and I joined this group. They're called Gravity Works, and it's a group of women who did aerial in their warehouse, and they brought other people in for free and showed them. We would train together. They gave us an ultimatum at one point to say they were only going to keep people who wanted to perform, and I didn't want to give it up, so I said I'll perform even though I was shy about performing. But it was great because we designed our own costumes, we painted our own costumes and did our own makeup, and it was really fun to go and do shows. And then I made the decision to move to Hamilton. I bought a house here and I didn't want to give it up, and so I had my silks and my rope and all my equipment, and I was looking for a place to practice. I couldn't find a painting studio that was high enough at the time, and I approached Harp, and they offer free space in exchange for teaching your skills to the community. So I put a call out to the community. It was just my daughter and I that were doing it at that time. And I got so many people coming in that I got a little scared because I couldn't keep track of everybody and watch everybody.
Everyone wants to learn, yeah.
And so I guess at one point I think I gave a bit of that ultimatum about if you want to keep doing this, then you want to perform, yeah. And we were asked to perform at Harp's Gala. That was the first show that we did as a troupe. And I called it HAG.
Now, for those who want to get into aerial performing, where do they start?
Well, they can come here and they can start with us. I mean, it's still, I didn't begin it as a school, and it's still not a school. It's more of a group that we bring. Anybody that wants to come in and try it is welcome to come. We do a skill sharing session with them. So we'll show them how to climb, and that's the first thing. So most people don't have the strength yet to climb. But after coming for a couple of weeks, they'll probably be able to climb after a couple. Some people can climb right away. you might be able to climb right away. I don't know. Some people say, well, I couldn't do it because I'm not flexible, I can't do the splits. But everybody in the troupe has their strengths and their weaknesses. And it's what makes each performer interesting to watch, too.
Lori, what's next?
Well, we're going to start working on our annual cabaret, which happens in February. It's part of Winterfest, and it takes a few months to get prepared for that. And we always showcase something new. So a couple of years ago, a few of us learned how to stilt walk, me included. I'd wanted to walk on stilts for a good part of my life, and I'm 53 now, so I was 50 when I learned to walk on stilts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring.
It's great, it's really fun. And we have this amazing person in our troupe, Tanis MacArthur, who is a really interesting dancer, but she's also a very interesting costume designer. And she makes all of our costumes, and she's got some really far out costumes that are from her very interesting mind. Ooh. Oh yeah, that one looks really good. I like it. Yeah, so I have some ideas that I will start brainstorming with her, and I'll talk to the aerialists in the troupe to get them to start working on their routines for the show.
Lori, the show is called The Artist Toolbox. Now this is the part of the show where we always ask the artist for a piece of advice about a gadget they store in their toolbox or advice they would give. So Lori, what's in your toolbox?
I don't have any fear in my toolbox. Sometimes if I get fear in my toolbox, I get rid of it. So because, you know, fear can stop you from doing a lot of things. And when I started doing decorative painting, I was fearful that I wasn't an artist, that I wasn't good enough to call myself an artist. And it took me a long time to get over that. And it's the same thing as an aerialist too. I was afraid to do it, and I got over my fears to do it. So I think, and the other thing is money. I was going to say is, as an artist, you're always worrying about money, and it can keep you from doing the things that you really love to do. And I think that if you pursue, it's a bit of a cliche, but if you pursue what you love to do, don't worry so much about the money, because it will come. So don't be afraid to do that. Again, that's fear that holds you back.
Well, Lori, this has been great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Straddle. So open your legs. No, open your legs up. Open up. Yeah. Ah. Straddled. All the way back. You can take your hands off here. Straighten your legs. Straighten your toes. You can take your hands off. Just one hand.
I'm like, I don't trust it yet.
You gonna come down? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. How do you come down though?
Okay.
A huge thank you to Lori for sitting down with me. I definitely need to brush up on my silks. To learn more about Lori, go to her website at www.lorilemairestudio.com.
Toolbox Resource File.
Let's see what's in our toolbox today. So today's tip is for all my friends at home who have Netflix. Guys, this is the top 5 documentaries on Netflix that I highly recommend every artist check out. Number 1, Lady Gaga, 5'2". Number 2, 8 Mile, the Eminem Story. Number 3, Janice, Little Girl Blue. Number 4, What Happened, Miss Simone. Number 5's a little different because you can find it on YouTube, and that is Simply Complicated, the Demi Lovato story. All of these documentaries really delve into the darker side of the industry, getting into the industry, and what it's like to be an artist. Guys, that's all for Toolbox Resource File, but don't you dare go anywhere. There's lots more coming up on the Artist Toolbox.
Toolbox People.
The point of Toolbox People is to highlight organizations in Hamilton that use art as a healing tool. I caught up with Lori at the Art Gallery of Hamilton to learn about their new program, Artful Moments for Persons with Dementia. So Lori, can you tell me what is Artful Moments and about the program?
Yes, Artful Moments is a program of art making and art appreciation run here at the Art Gallery of Hamilton for people with dementia. We welcome people from across the community to come in, and ideally what we're hoping is that people will come as a couple, whether that is the person with dementia and a spouse, or a child, or a friend or another person to come with them, though people are also welcome to come on their own. And while they're at the gallery, we have about a 2-hour program where we spend some time in the gallery spaces looking and talking about the art on display, trying to make it accessible and fun for the people that are with us. And we follow that up with some time in the studio doing some art making as well.
That sounds fun. Now, how does someone register for the program?
They would get in touch with me. The email address is access@artgalleryofhamilton.com. We do have a registration form that I'm happy to share, and we get people signed up very easily, and we go from there. We have 4 sessions that are happening throughout the year, one that is on now, as well as one starting in April, in June, and again in September. And each of those sessions is 6 weeks long. And what we would love to see is people who spend the year with us. Every program will be different, though we welcome people to start at any point within the year in the program. And one thing that is important for everyone to know is that no art experience is necessary. This is for absolute beginners, for people who want to try something new.
And that's really important. Now, you mentioned, Lori, that you had connections in New York.
Yes, one of the most well-known programs about dementia and art galleries is called Meet Me at MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art. And so this is one of the programs that a lot of the galleries that you'll see across the country are using as models for their program. And so one of the things that we did starting off with this program was to connect with MoMA, because they have been doing it for a number of years. And we talked to them about some of the research as well as their methods and approaches to art. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go out to New York a couple of times and meet with their educators there to see the program happening.
Persons with dementia, when they get a new diagnosis like that, sometimes feel that they're set back and they don't know how to be part of a community. What the Art Gallery of Hamilton and Artful Moments is going to do is actually reach out to them and say, come, be part of the community, be part of this, and help open them up. And to be healthy, art is a very healing thing. You don't have to be an artist to participate in this. It's about coming out, being part of the community, feeling a sense of connection with others that'll be here. And because the staff here are all trained with dementia, they're very supportive. And you'll be able to feel safe and productive.
For sure.
And when you feel like that, it makes you feel like there's a healing sense around you.
I can only imagine the bonding that happens between the couples that come here.
It's an amazing thing to see, because if you've ever known anybody who has a diagnosis of dementia, it is heartbreaking. There is no cure. And it is a journey. It's not something, it's a long journey, and it affects both the person with dementia, but it also affects their loved ones. And to see a person with dementia and their loved ones going through the art gallery, looking at art and having a conversation about it, and watching that dynamic go on it's absolutely breathtaking. And then on top of this, second part of the program is they actually do art making. And as Lori has said, you don't have to have an art background. You don't have to be an artist in any way. I have no talent in that whatsoever. And you do it, and you feel that release, and you feel that creativity come alive, and you start to realize, I can do this. Yes, I can still do that. Yes, I have a diagnosis of dementia, but I can do this. And it's wonderful to see a couple, whether it's a husband and wife or a daughter and a mother or whatever, and you see them talking and their heads together and conversing about art. And it's quite the miracle that happens.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Janice, Lori, thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
A big thank you to Janice and Lori for chatting with me. Guys, if you want to know more about the program, go to their website at www.artgalleryofhamilton.com/what's-on and click on the icon that says Artful Moments.
Toolbox Things.
For today's Toolbox Things, I caught up with Michelle at Hamilton Sewing to see what she recommends for beginner sewers.
What I have here is the Westerly template ruler system. This is a new system that was brought out that allows us to do what long armors have been doing on their machines, is work with rulers and templates. I'm simply going to place my template where I want to draw a line, run my machine, and I move the foot along the edge of the ruler. When I get to the end of where I want my design to stop, I can then freehand up, reset my template. So if I've gone too far, that's fine. I just travel back and then follow along the template again. It's that simple. And what I get, I can start creating different block designs. I'm not sure if you can see these.
A huge thank you to Michelle. To learn more about Michelle and Hamilton Sewing, go to their website at www.hamiltonsewing.com.
Toolbox Tips.
I think one of the most important things for your toolbox is learning how to be yourself and finding your voice in the industry. All the tools are available to everybody. You know, money being no object, anybody can have equal amount of tools. So I think in this industry, I think it's important that you find your thing, you find your voice, and something that you can sell that's independent of everybody else.
The business of art.
Here on the Artist Toolbox, we're all about promoting and empowering creativity and the importance of artists. However, it is wise as artists to look at the business side of things and see through the eyes of the person hiring and buying your art. Welcome to the business of art. Today I sat down with Brett Juvenville, director at Tin Man Creative Studios. He's here to give advice for aspiring animators.
Getting hired at our studio is a little different than other studios, mainly because we're a small boutique studio, so we tend to not have a lot of turnover. So we're not always looking for more and more and more crew, but what we do look for is we look for people that can do a little bit of everything. So that means storyboarding, design, animation, in-betweens, cleanup, like the whole gamut of production. I think if you're looking to get hired just anywhere really quickly, your best bet is to probably specialize in something like animation, where there's a lot of job roles, or there's a lot of job openings for that. So if you're looking to get into storyboarding, that might be a little harder because there aren't that many positions. But if you're just looking to get hired, if you're out of school, you need to kind of pay off those student debts, then an animator specializing in that is probably your best bet. But if you're, in the long term, I think what's going to be really good for your career is to get those other skill sets, to get into storyboarding, to get into design, to get into even compositing or editing is now today the software has made it very easy for you to learn those skills. Yeah, and so we look for people that can do everything. So pretty much everyone that works with us is a generalist, and they can do everything from designs all the way down to animation. For me personally, I never really look at if someone has a diploma or if someone has a degree. It's almost all based on the portfolio for 50% of why I hire people, and whether or not they're nice people and they're going to fit in. That's the other side. I would say that school is most important for actually making those connections and having, again, that social interaction so that you have someone down the road who can recommend you for work. Because really, our studio tends to hire full-time with no real end date, but at a lot of studios, I would say almost all the studios that you'll apply to, it's usually for a 6-month contract or for a year-long contract, for whatever the duration of that season, of that show that you're working on is. So you're going to be hopping from job to job fairly often, and it's good to have someone that you're friendly with that can say like, oh, you know who'd be great at that? So-and-so. And then they would recommend you and you get in there. We do. So we do a school internship every summer. So far we've been doing it primarily with Sheridan, because they've made it very easy. Their internship program is really good. And we've also had a couple of interns over the years from out of country who have actually just emailed us out of the blue and said like, I really like your work and I'm going to be in Canada and here's what I'd like to do. And after we've looked at their work and seen what they're like, we've invited them to join us. I would say knowing 2D, knowing how to draw well, knowing how to draw fast, those are very, very, very important no matter what field of animation you're going to get into, because even on a CG feature, like on a Pixar film, they draw the designs 2D, they draw the storyboards 2D, they practically animate the whole movie in 2D before it ever goes to CG. If you ever get a chance to look at what's called their Leica reels, their animatics, they are very, very tight and very practically animated. So there's a lot of 2D artists that work at those studios and that work on those films. The 3D side of it you know, is probably more the back half of what those productions are, whereas all pre-production leading up to it is all 2D. So it still has its place in every production, and knowing how to draw is, in my mind, one of the most important things about animation. A lot of animation shows these days tend to be very kind of puppeted and rigged, so you're given the design, you're given the rules about how they can move and how they can't move. So it's not quite like it used to be with the old Disney cartoons where they'd have the mirror next to the desk and they'd be kind of acting it out as they draw. But acting, writing, you know, any of those kind of supplementary surrounding skills that you can give yourself is only going to benefit you. Like, it's never a negative. What's interesting about that, the future of 2D animation anyway, is it's kind of been very much the same since about 1940 when they hit their stride. Like, you can see if you go back and watch old Bugs Bunny cartoons, there was a moment where it used to look like those old kind of very tube-shaped characters, and then it switched to what we know as Bugs Bunny today. And then it stayed that way for about, what, going on 70 years now? So the difference really between that and what we do today is that it's faster and it's easier because we work on computers and we can draw right on the screen and all that stuff. So I see 2D animation staying pretty much level with where it is as far as how many shows we have. It's definitely not as prevalent in the feature film market, unfortunately, but there are a lot of great kind of boutique studios like Cartoon Saloon out of Ireland that still do 2D feature films, and so I think it will have its place, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Again, like, I think having multiple skill sets, just like if you were, you know, in any other profession, the more you can do, the more often people can use you. So the way we started out, originally it was myself and our producer Morgan, and if we were looking to hire someone for, say, a commercial that we were hired to do, so we're looking to bring in a designer and an animator and a storyboard artist. If we bring in a designer, there might be, you know, that project might go for 8 weeks, but the design phase might be only 4 days. And then the storyboard phase might only be a couple of weeks, and then animation is the lion's share, so that's going to be your 6 weeks out of that. So if we were to hire specialists for that, we would be hiring people for only 4 days of work or only 2 weeks of work. So it was always better for us to hire someone who could do all 3, and then we have 8 weeks of work for them, and while they're working on that, we're trying to line up the next job, and we just kind of kept them going. So even when you're at a big studio and you're just an animator or you're just a storyboard artist or a designer, being able to roll from one show onto the next may be determined by how many skills you kind of have in your back pocket.
Stay tuned, there's lots more coming up on the Artist Toolbox.
Shannon's story.
Hello and welcome to Shannon's Story. This year we saw records break at the Hamilton Fringe, which left me on a beautiful high. It makes my actor heart so happy to know that people still love live and local theater. However, recently I had a conversation with an artist friend who believes that the theater is becoming too culturally sensitive. In my opinion, I think this is a case-by-case scenario. However, as an artist, let us not forget that our job is to make people feel and make people think. I recently did a play called Blackbird by David Harrower, where I played a young woman named Una who was sexually abused as a child. Many people in our audience found the play uncomfortable and dark due to the topic, but rightfully so. You're supposed to. In my opinion, theater should be told as truthfully as possible. And you have to show the ugly parts of a story in order for the message to hit home harder. If the play represents a period of time and there's a greater reason to why certain things are there, then keep it there. However, my friends, on another note, we have had a variety of artists come on the show this season and offer advice or tips from their toolbox. So here is my toolbox tip.
Kick off this rookie of a host to make me the star. Oh, and Justin Trudeau, call me.
Shannon.
What? This is the last show of the season.
Shannon.
What do you want from me?
Can we just finish doing the show, please? My toolbox tip is to just keep going. Let your creativity out and let it speak for itself. You'll be surprised at what's in there. I want to give a huge thank you to all the artists we've had on the show and my crew for all their hard work.
I would like to thank my dear friend, Peach Wine, for all its inspiration.
If you have any questions or comments about the show, tweet me at the Art Toolbox and let me know. Thank you for tuning into the Artist Toolbox. Stay creative, Hamilton.